Hello, everybody. I just wanted to make another impromptu little PAL session, and it's just to kind of outline what we have learned, give you a preview of what we're going to learn. This is going to be a really good time to review and say like, hey, do I know this? Go back, maybe make your own study material or utilize some of the things that I have posted. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm working with. Go down. So look, I have this whole folder of review material. It's always very useful. So if you ask me, hey, do you have something for this? I'll either find it, make it, or give you what I have. So just always let me know kind of what's going on there. Let's see what else I got. I don't really need that right now. I have a bunch of material. So let's start with week 7. I could probably put this into a slideshow. Yay. Okay, week 7. So with week 7, this was a week 6 review, but you guys have these slides. So we started with lab 11, my personal favorite lab. So we used NaCl in class. The ACL works too. It's just to neutralize some charges. That's why you might see some discrepancy. But really understanding this plasmid, how it works and how it relates to operons and how things can be inducible or repressible. Understanding those things is really important. It's going to be a big chunk of the exam. I can tell you that right now. This is a key concept, and this entire lab will continue and the idea will follow. And just note this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will always be, I will always want to answer your questions. Now, if I have the time to, it might be a little bit later, but you could always try to figure it out yourself first. If you don't, shoot me a question, but move on. I don't want you to feel like you need the instant answer and that I'm not able to give it to you, so what good of a pal am I? I have my classes too. Like during Monday, you guys might see me in class, but what you guys don't know is from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. that day, I've been in class. So I always try to find time for you guys, even if it's in a quick break to answer a question. I usually don't even look at my notes when I'm trying to answer a question. So usually I can give a pretty instantaneous response. I promise, I'm working on the response time. I think my notifications are messed up on my phone too. But anyways, I'll go ahead and fix those. Moving on to lab 12. So this was a similar thing with lab, let's see, this one is gonna be, I think this one's the disinfectants. Lab 13 is antibiotics. Both similar, very, very similar, like technique, concepts, everything. You're going to be looking at bactericidal versus bacteriostatic. Both of those are going to be very important concepts when it comes to the exam as well. This was one thing that I confused, was we used Mueller-Hinton and Kirby-Bauer very synonymously in this lab and in lab 13. Understand that Mueller-Hinton is the type of plate, just like a TSA, but Kirby-Bauer is the specific type of test. This is when we create a lawn, we put the susceptibility disc, and we measure a zone of inhibition. That is the Kirby-Bauer method. For some reason, that wording tripped me up when I was in this class, so I thought I'd make that differentiation now, just in case. It sometimes is hard to tell bacteriostatic versus bactericidal. I think just looking at plates helps a lot. So if you do want that extra practice, walk around to different tables, look at what they have, stay interested in the material, and be able to say, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this, and talk to those other tables and say, did you guys think that this was this? Did you guys think that this zone was bacteriostatic? And then, make a conversation out of it. That is truly the best way to learn this and develop the skill of being able to kind of differentiate. There you go. Another thing that messes up people a lot is the term resistant versus susceptible. So I want you guys to look at the root words here. So if you are resistant, you're resisting whatever is coming against you. you are tough, right? If you think about it in that way, then you're gonna say, okay, well, the antibiotic didn't even touch this microbe. Well, then the microbe's pretty strong, right? So you can say the microbe is resistant to the antibiotic, or vice versa. So let's say you made a lawn, but then nothing grew because of this one disc. Man, that antibiotic is tough. That means the antibiotic is resistant to the growth of that bacteria. Using that and then understanding that if you say one is resistant, the other has to be susceptible. Kind of flip-flopping the terms. Being able to say, like with my first example, the bacteria was resistant to the antibiotic, then the antibiotic is susceptible or has a weakness. Kind of weird wording. I would usually go with sticking to the bacterial term. So like if the bacteria itself is resistant or susceptible to a certain antibiotic. That's what I would go with. But if you have any questions, let me know. I know the McFarland was a pain, but it is, it's a good skill to make sure that like you're not overloading. And if you had trouble with the lawns, just let me know. Because this is going to be a skill that you have to do on your own, not on the exam, but for the unknown. And I'll get into a little bit of what the unknown is in a minute. I have an oxidase and TSI review video that I posted to Discord already. So I just thought this is one that always gets people. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think TSI was actually on our exam 2. So like I'm gonna leave that until I have to study for exam 3. But knowing it now would help, I promise. Because then when you don't have to refigure out the labs if you already have the baseline understanding of what this tube does, what it has, things like that. So feel free to watch this video. Hopefully it gives you a good outline of everything. I actually haven't watched it in a minute, so I might have to redo it. But anyways, that's lab. Moving on to lecture. So you guys are on a weird schedule. The syllabus says that you should be on chapter 10, so this is what I based it off of. I guess this also goes hand in hand with lab 13 with the antibiotics. So chemotherapy, selective toxicity, if I can talk. All of these words should be familiar to you, and if they are not, let me know. Go back and review, things like that. This picture here is a lifesaver. I would look into that. And when you start to have to memorize the antibiotics, there are a few tricks that I used that I can share with you guys. Let's see. I think, I think this is a pretty good synopsis of like what chapter 10 is about. So go through this, and if you can like give me a good amount of detail, then you're probably good. You're probably in good shape. But this is supposed to be able to check if you have any gap in your understanding. If you need to ask a question, go review your material and come back to either Dr. B or I, and we will both be able to help you. So that's chapter 10. I think that's the end of my slide. Yep. So that's the end of my slide there. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But again, this is also, that was week 7, and we're kind of just now getting to it. We're a little bit behind, but that's okay. So I'll kind of look through week 8 as like a kind of preview, I guess. Ooh, yeah. You guys have not touched lab 15 yet, which is okay. I'm just gonna skip that. You don't have to know that. Lab 13 though, you guys have done. So you kind of are in the middle. So no diffusion, what it means, that just means like how does it spread out from something very concentrated to something less kind of concentrated, that movement. Understanding that drug-resistant bacteria doesn't happen because they took the bacteria and all of a sudden they were mutant and strong. They either picked up that information from other microbes or developed an R plasmid or just simply mutated. It's got to be one of those options. They just don't take the antibiotic and they go, nothing, piece of cake, and then develop a gene. It takes a little bit longer than that. Remember to take your full course of antibiotics. Let's see. You guys will kind of get into this, I think, a little bit later, but sometimes 2 antibiotics is better than 1, and you guys will know that later. It's just the idea of like, you ever see WWE? You know, you got 2 up against like the skull crusher, right? And these guys are, they got a hook here, and then while they're distracted and feeling this guy, behind them, somebody's gonna bash him with a chair or something. I don't know. It's kind of that idea of like, while one does this, it lets the other be a little bit more effective, and together they make a great combo. And you'll see that on the plate. This up in here in the right hand corner, that is showing, this isn't a poorly placed Kirby Bauer test. This isn't those discs being moved around. Those are their synergistic effects. But in general, think about how antibiotics could work together, because they could work very well together, or they could kind of have opposing effects. But we'll get into that later when we think about the modes of action of antibiotics. The Stanford Guide. So this might look like a beast. It's actually a pretty interesting book in general. It basically lists like everything that you could possibly have a disease from, what your symptoms are, how to treat it, things like that. But we're mostly focusing on these colored pages that you'll see inside of the Stanford Guide. And it's going to show you a bacteria on the left and long rows. And every row that is going to be, every row is a bacteria, but every column is an antimicrobial. And that antimicrobial, you're either going to see a red, a yellow, or a green, or like something in between sometimes, or like a plus. But we want to focus on the ones that are going to be just green. When you see a green plus in a cross-section of a bacteria and an antimicrobial, that means that that antimicrobial is going to be effective against that bacteria, or in other words, that bacteria is going to be susceptible to that antimicrobial. Thinking about that. That's just I think today in lab you guys might touch it. It might be something for Monday, but it's pretty good to look at. I would encourage everybody to just kind of get comfortable with it. You guys are gonna have to use it a couple times in class, but double check your doctors too. Sometimes they just be prescribing ampicillin for everything, and soon enough we're not gonna be able to use ampicillin. But anyways, that's my personal motives, I guess. It's just interesting. I would look at it. Maybe if you had a culture and sensitivity done before in the past, maybe you can find what bacteria it was and say, okay, what antibiotic was I given? Was it supposed to be effective? Did they give me the right antibiotic? That's also something interesting to look at. Let me stay here for a second. So one thing that I did want to point out was, I feel like this might be a little bit too early. Maybe I won't say anything about it. I won't say anything about it for now. But I will mention it later on, because it is it is an important concept. But let's talk about the unknown. So you guys got your unknowns assigned. I would encourage you to at least get a rough outline started now. Even if you take the outline, copy and paste it into a document, and just leave it there, that's better than what half of the people do before spring break. Because once spring break rolls around, people are just like, oh, I got to get this done. You should be working on it little by little as you do the lab tests, as you continue in lecture and in lab, you'll understand more of the concepts. I would start filling out a little bit of that information now. It's just not so much of a beast later on. Little bits at a time kind of idea. Quiz number 4, I did make an outline for quiz number 4. I think I shared it. I'll double check. But quiz number 4 tends to get people because they do kind of well so far in all the quizzes in lab. But for some reason, it's still trying to fine-tune and perfect the study methods, and this one tanks for everybody. I don't know why, but it's just kind of like one of those things. I would study for it now. But in general, if you are keeping up with lecture, you should be fine. It's usually when I look at the quizzes, because as you guys take them in lab, I'm looking at them, because what do I not know versus, you know, like how would I do if I took this quiz, and that kind of tells me what I need to brush up on. Usually, like, I get most of them right, but this one is going to be a little bit one I kind of like have to stop and think about. So take some extra time and read everything carefully. The quizzes will tell you how to read questions in the exam. So I encourage you to take the setting of the lab as, you know, how it is, quiet, everybody's focused on doing their thing. You got to answer this question in front of you about material. Take that setting to get comfortable with it. So usually why people don't do so well on the first exam, they don't know how the professor tests, they don't know what to expect, they're anxious about it, and it's the first time that they'll be doing this. As you get more comfortable, the more confident you feel in taking the exam, more confident you feel in the material. I just recommend, you know, annotating the hell out of it. And, you know, regardless of how you do on the quiz, they're not really worth that much anyways. Regardless of how you do, use it as a diagnostic more than anything. Don't beat yourself up and just say like, man, I should have known that. Sure, you maybe should have in order to take the quiz, but this is now telling you what you do and don't know. Just kind of the silver lining is, you know, instead of being confused about what you're confused about, now you kind of know. That's all I have there. Do I have anything else going on up here? This like bar is kind of getting in the way, so I can't see anything. Nope, that's all I have. So as always, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm always open and available to you guys. Trying to think about what else I should mention. I've added a new subsection to the text channels on Discord for review video ideas. Woohoo! So if you are confused about something in lab and it is like the whole concept, or you just need help and it's not making sense to you at all, just say like, you know, lab 11 doesn't make sense. Could you make a video explaining the plasmid? Sure, of course I can. I will sit down and definitely do that. I might not look the best, but it'll be the information that counts. Listen. So I will be open to all of those suggestions. Always remember to post your questions to the questions for pals chat, because that allows people to look through it. I would encourage you guys to post there. If you feel embarrassed about a question, don't be. Usually it's just a simple misconception, and sometimes that's all it takes. It's just a little bit of clarification, and suddenly, you know, you understand it. And the other thing with that is that probably half the class has your same misconception. Just like me with the Kirby Bauer and Mueller-Hinton, I was like, what's the difference? Like, we talked about it, but what's the difference? Totally okay question, and I clarified it, right? I asked Dr. B that question, she said, and she told me, you know, what it was, and I figured it out. That was So that's all I got for today. Please, if I try to make these pound sessions like the same day as your lecture, so that the most amount of people can come. Like, everybody's going to be on campus Tuesdays and Thursdays, theoretically, for lecture. So if I can do something on those days, then I would do a PAL session. Obviously, I can't do it after any of my classes because most of you guys are in lab. And then after 7:30, it starts dipping into, you know, you can't really do anything around that time. Most people are home making dinner, getting ready for the next day, or going to bed. I know I like to go to bed at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. latest. Kind of feeling it now. I went to bed at 1 last night and I woke up at like 6. So, I digress. Just let me know how things are working, how things are going. I need the feedback. I can't change anything. I can't improve anything unless I get that feedback. Because as far as I know, people are just busy. That's why they can't make it. That's the most of the feedback that I've gotten from the people who do kind of show up or talk to me in lab. That's what I get. So any other feedback would be great. Yeah, at this point, I'm just talking and not saying much. So, I will let this be, and I will see you in the next video. That sounds like a YouTuber sign off. I guess I am, but still weird. Okay, bye. Bye.